So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Brexit hardman Steve Baker basically calling Boris Johnson a pound shop Nigel Farage, because Steve Baker basically said that Johnson can either vote for the Windsor Framework or he can be a pound shop Farage and vote against it. So let's have a look.
Yeah, of course it matters what the DUP think, and they're entitled to have their concerns about what is a compromise. But what's really important is we serve the best interests of the people in Northern Ireland.
So that's interesting because there he's siding more with the kind of people in the middle of unionism and nationalism, kind of alliance party voters, I guess you could argue, and then also kind of hinting at the nationalist support there, because at the end of the day, things are meant to have cross-community consent in Northern Ireland. So he's saying the unionist consent is important, but he's kind of sidelined that with the other communities in Northern Ireland.
Boris Johnson and Liz Truss.
Well, I'd say two things. First is that let's not misrepresent what the protocol bill would do. The protocol bill would have put in place a red and a green channel for goods going to Northern Ireland. But in using that bill, we would wreck our relations with the European Union and damage our standing internationally. Now, that was a price we were willing to pay to get just the kind of arrangements we now have in the Windsor Framework.
So what he's saying is, he was asked what about Boris Johnson and Liz Truss voting against it. He talks about the benefits of the green and red lane and saying that the reason we had the Northern Ireland Protocol bill, the one that would allow kind of the end of the Northern Ireland Protocol, was that they wanted the outcome that they've got in the Windsor Framework. And now I don't think that's 100% true at all. I think Baker's being a bit disingenuous here, but he's giving the answers that I kind of hoped Tory MPs would eventually give, which is that we don't want to wreck the Good Friday Agreement, we don't want to become an international pariah.
So really, both of them should be backing the Windsor Framework today. And what I would say is they're both better than this. We've reached this point thanks to Liz Truss setting the process in train, and today's measures are better, of course, than the protocol that Boris Johnson put in place, a protocol which he spoke about, and those things he said turned out not to be accurate. So
very interesting there, the framing that he has set up, saying that Liz Truss got the ball rolling by basically trying to throw hands at the EU, fighting talk, and obviously with the Northern Ireland Protocol bill, saying that what we wanted was a better version of the Northern Ireland Protocol, and we got that in the Windsor Framework, so that because of that they should be supporting the bill, which is interesting framework from him, because Truss wanted a green lane. We don't have a green lane, we have an express lane, let's be honest now, but it all just depends on how you want to word things. And that Baker saying that Boris Johnson wasn't honest about the Northern Ireland Protocol, which is very interesting, because we know Boris Johnson lied. He told the DUP and the ERG that he would get rid of the protocol after Brexit, and he never did. So it's kind of interesting that Baker acknowledges that Johnson lied, doesn't go further into it, but says that the Windsor Framework is what we have now and that they should all support it.
He's got a choice. He can be remembered for the great acts of statecraft that he achieved, or he can risk looking like a pound shop Nigel Farage, and I hope he chooses to be remembered as a statesman.
And are you happy for this to go through on Labour votes?
It's no question of it going through on Labour votes. It'll be going through because it's the right thing for Northern Ireland.
So, I think it could end up going through on Labour votes there in the end, because, we had a lot of abstentions during the vote. I think around 20 MPs voted against it, I believe, and there were like 40 abstentions. So we'll see what those abstentions turn out to be in the end. But, he basically, let's be honest now, Boris Johnson voted against the Windsor Framework, and that means Steve Baker's effectively calling him a pound shop Farage, which is interesting given where Steve Baker started before kind of the Johnson administration as a really hardline Brexiteer to what he is now, and the transformation we've seen from him has been dramatic. I kind of joked that he might have been abducted by aliens or something, but I genuinely don't know. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.